Utilizing weather settings in Arma is very crucial as it sets not only the mood and tone of your mission, but it also allows you to possibly utilize some interesting gameplay elements and change up the flair of the overall mission. So in order to access your weather settings, you want to go to right above where it says About 3DIN Enhanced. And if you don't have this in the future, then just navigate to where it says Intel, which is a little cloud icon with the sun behind it. So you can click that. This opens up the Environment Attributes editor. And this is where we're going to do all the meat and mustard of this particular editing. So the first thing we have is a time multiplier. This multiplies the amount of time that happens in game. So let's say you have a mission that takes place over the course of multiple days, or we're doing a dynamic recon op where there's you can actually respawn and do different things. You can set the multiplier to be whatever the hell you want, and it will activate once you're in game. 1x literally means that time moves at the same speed in which it does in real life, so a full 24-hour cycle. Right above time multiplier is the date, which is really not that important unless you find a reason for it to be important. But this little slider is the time slider, and what we can do is we can either click these arrow marks to advance it by an hour, or we can click on the little bar at the bottom and then drag it. You can see behind this attribute editor the world is actually updating in real time, and even the clouds are moving position. So it's that's basically how you change time. Mind you, the season, or rather the month that we have selected here, will actually change the angle of the sun, including the date, which is kind of cool, pretty interesting. You can't really see it happening too much because my settings are set on pretty low, so the shadows aren't really changing all that much, but it does actually work like that. We also have different moon cycles depending on the dates, which are based off of the real world. You also have the weather forecast. Basically what this means is that whatever weather settings you set, how much time it'll take in real time, these are the actual minutes for those changes to occur, which is not super crazy because typically that doesn't often happen, but you can set that as well. Overcast is the amount of clouds that are present in the sky, 100% being completely opaque, like clouds everywhere, 0% being not a single cloud in the sky for miles. Next is fog. Fog is really, really cool and really, really crucial. Arma 3 uses an awesome solution for fog in that it's rendered visually in 3D and volumetrically. And I can show you exactly what I mean by that. So if you drag the fog startup, this is basically the strength of the fog, 100% being complete fog, 0% being none. So if you drag it up a little bit, you can start to see that the fog is now accumulating in the world. But it's accumulating in a z-space pass, which means that the fog is happening where there's no fog in front of you, and the further away and any object is, whether it's the train or any objects are, the more the fog starts to stack up. Well, this is cool. This isn't really exactly how fog works, and I can show you exactly what I mean by that. So for example, with the fog start set at 60%, if I adjust the decay of the fog, you can start to see that the fog is now actually naturally accumulating in the lower parts of the map. And the decay being set to 5%, for example, let's set it to like 10%, and we'll make the fog start super heavy, and then we can adjust the base, because the base is now where the fog is coming from in terms of the height of the terrain. So if I set the base to, let's say, 100 meters, you can see that the fog is now only accumulating within the valleys of the mountain. And if you were to go right now into this valley right here, you could see that it's super dense, super heavy fog, but as soon as we come up out of the valley, there's no fog present at all. This is interesting for a couple different reasons, because you can do gameplay with this very fun and very interestingly. You can have asymmetric gameplay where you're utilizing fog to get around areas and whatnot, and that's the type of power that you can have with this. You could always adjust these values as you want as well, but you can see that most fog does typically tend to roll in from the valleys and whatnot, which is great. And then you could again lower the decay if you want to have it as you are. So anyway, that's fog. The forecast for fog and the decay is basically linked to how much time it takes for these changes to happen if you do use a forecasted system. Rain, pretty self-explanatory. If you set your overcast to 100%, the game engine will automatically assume that it's going to rain. Otherwise, otherwise you can just go into manual override and just change these values and make it rain. You could even have it be no clouds out and still raining if that's your jivvy, but you can do that as well. So I'll put the clouds up, and I'll also increase some fog. The next thing I want is lightning. So you can also go in here under lightning, add a manual override. You can dramatically increase the rate at which lightning happens. So 100% would be like a complete lightning storm. Anything in between 0 to 100% would be a variation of that. The next thing is waves. So if I lower the fog start a little bit, and then I go over to the waves, right over here, you can see the waves are fairly calm. If I go into Intel, I raise the waves, suddenly the waves get much larger. As the waves come closer to the land, they get progressively less large, and the further they go out to the sea, the larger that the waves become. Finally is wind. Wind is pretty cool too, because wind also does have an effect on the waves themselves, but wind specifically affects, for example, the rate at which these trees sway. So you can see the trees are swaying a good amount, the grass is swaying a good amount, and if I lower the wind, they don't sway nearly as much. It also affects the ballistic coefficient, because higher wind would be more impact or more effect on the ballistics overall. And we also have a visual settings where we can limit view distance. -1 would be -1 basically means there's no limitation for the view distance, but we can set it to something like, for example, 100 meters, 1,000 meters, you can see the grass, set it to specific standards, and that's basically weather settings in a nutshell.